Hello, Reader Pops. I haven't been on this channel for a while. I've been a bit absent from this channel. Current life conditions are not very conducive to filming these videos, and I am barely getting my main channel videos uploaded, if I'm being honest. And also, there is a new hobby that has piqued my interest within the past 4 days, so it's super fresh. But that would be chess. Yep, I know, so random, right? But our friends play, and then Ryan started playing, and then my mom wanted to learn how to play, and I downloaded chess.com, and I know how to play now. I'm horrible at it, but sometimes at night, instead of reading, I will try to play chess. So, oh, also I have been being social now. So the month that I read 20 books wasn't social at all. Now I've actually been interacting with people, and it's been very rewarding. So I'm sorry, but I've only read 6 books this month, which is actually an amount that I really enjoy. It's super low pressure, but it still feels like I read the amount of books that I wanted to read, and I'm not like disappointed with it or anything. So let's go over what I read. I made 2 book videos, one on my main channel, one on my vlog channel. The first one, oh gosh, the first one involving 3 books, and it was posted onto this vlog channel. The first one I read was The Final Gambit by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. It came out this month, or not this month, October. I was so hyped for this book because the first 2 in this trilogy are The Inheritance Games and Hawthorne Legacy, and I gave them 5 stars. And in my brain, this is a 5-star series. So I was just kind of expecting this to be another 5-star book. And I was in a reading slump while reading it, which definitely could have affected my reading experience, but I do think the overall plot for this book was a little bit weak and was so confusing, especially with not reading the first 2 books for over a year. There were so many names and it was getting so in the weeds that I was like, okay, I genuinely for a lot of it didn't know who was who or what was happening. So I rated this like 3.5 stars, but I would still recommend the series because the first 2 books are still 5 stars in my mind. This one was just a little bit weak, but if I had read them all in a row, I feel like this would have been higher rated. So kind of disappointing, but I still love the series, so it's fine. You know, it's fine. Oh, I wrote down 4 stars, but next up we have Rock, Paper, Scissors. I always mess it up. Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. This is a thriller book, and I haven't read a thriller in so long. Actually, I'm reading one right now, but before reading this one, I hadn't read one in a long time. Friends in real life have read this and raved about it. Sarah Caroli loves this book, and apparently it's really good for reading slumps because the end of each chapter leaves you on a cliffhanger. And it was true. This book did very much help me get out of a reading slump. And it's about this married couple that gets this free trip to the middle of nowhere in a snowy location. And they take it and immediately things are weird. And the husband also cannot identify faces. Like he can't distinguish facial features for a certain person. So like for his wife, he knows her voice and the scent of her, like all these different things, but not in a crowd. He wouldn't be able to pick her out. So that was also really interesting. And I loved the reveal in this book, the whole build up to the plot twist. I got chills when I read it. It was great and amazing, and I would highly recommend this book. If you're in a reading slump, you should definitely pick this one up. It's pretty short, it's fast paced, you want to know what's happening, and it was satisfying when you did find out what was happening. So I gave this one 4.5 stars. So super close to being 5 stars, but not because I'm not obsessed with the characters and I don't ever think about it, but it was amazing and I would recommend it to pretty much everyone. Okay, next we have Accidentally Amy by Lynn Painter. This is like a cute little fall romance book, as you can see. And since I was in this little reading slump thing, I was like, you know, a book that's under 300 pages that is in the romance category and is written by one of my favorite authors, I thought would just be easy to get through and get back into reading and all those things because she wrote Better Than the Movies, which is one of my favorite books. And this book, she actually was writing chapter by chapter through an email newsletter, and then people just wanted her to make it into a physical book. So she self-published it. So there's like some typos or some things wrong with it and stuff like that, but it's so cute. So I wanted to read it, and I didn't have the worst time ever, but I definitely didn't like it. So I gave it 2.5 stars. The romance just wasn't my thing, and it's so funny because I'm really starting to learn that in romance books, if the guy is something that you don't like or how they build their relationship is something that you don't like, then you basically just don't like the book because you like a romance based off of how they fall in love and how they treat each other. So if you don't like it, then you don't like the book. You know what I mean? So that's kind of what happened with this one. It was just very like, it was very feisty and not like soulmate cutesy love, which is my thing. If you want that, read Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter because I love that book, but I would not recommend this one. Okay, next, I read these next books in a main channel video where I had my Instagram stories choose what books I read for a week, which was really fun because I love Instagram stories. So you guys kind of participated in this video without even knowing. So the first one I read was Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson, which I'm so glad I got to this because I always picture reading this during the fall because because it's a dark academia book and it's set in Vermont at this academy, and there's like a murder mystery thing that the main character is trying to solve. And I finally read it and it did not disappoint. It was so easy to read. I loved it. I really need to pick up the next book because I think this is definitely something I want to read in November, is the rest of the series, but I gave this a 4.5 stars. I think I'm gonna love the series, so I'm so excited about it. But yeah, it's set at this place called Ellingham Academy, and there were some murders that took place a really long time ago, but they still have new students come to the school, and one of the new students gets in based off the fact that she is really good at solving murder mysteries, or she hasn't really proven that she can yet, but she's just really obsessed with it and knows everything about it. And so they bring her to the school. The tagline of the murderer was truly devious, and some really strange things start happening to her, and somebody on the campus dies, and it becomes a whole new murder mystery, dark academia Vermont fall Halloween setting. And it was great, loved the characters, easy to read. The ending confused me, but I think it's because I need to read the second book. It definitely ends on a cliffhanger, so I need to go buy that. Then I finally read Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo, most famous young adult fantasy series ever. And there's a show of it on Netflix that came out kind of recently, not really. And I had actually tried to watch episode 1 when it came out, and I watched probably like 15 minutes of it and then turned it off because I've already read Six of Crows, which is the duology that comes after this trilogy, and I really liked it, but I wasn't obsessed with it, so I never moved on to Crooked Kingdom. But a lot of people told me that I needed to read this trilogy before reading that duology. There's some debate on if that's true or not, but I knew I wanted to read this trilogy anyways. So I did, and I loved it, which is so nice because so many people give this series like a 3 stars, middle of the lane, didn't love it, didn't hate it, just such a meh book. Overhyped on TikTok, that sort of review of this book. And I was so happy that I actually loved it. I loved the main character. I loved the 2 love interests and the sort of opposition happening and the whole quest that they were going on. And I never got bored. Some people say that they DNF. I don't know. I just had such a different experience than all the reviews I had heard, which is super exciting because I want to have a new YA fantasy trilogy that I want to read and then be able to watch on Netflix because that's so rare to do, I feel like. So if you have not read this trilogy, I'm only on the first one, but I highly recommend it so far. And lastly for the month, I read It Starts With Us by Colleen Hoover. It came out in October, and absolutely everyone got their reading vlogs up the day after. My whole Instagram was filled with photos of this book, and I honestly have yet to watch too many review videos on people's thoughts about this book, but I think the general consensus that I saw was that people were kind of disappointed in this. But my experience with the first one, It Ends With Us, was that I think the messaging of the book is super important, but I didn't love like the first 200 pages of that book because some of the things were just really cringy, like the way that she was setting up her flower shop and the darker flowers, and she decorated it with chain. I don't know, it just felt kind of like Tumblr cringe 12-year-old vibes. But the last 100 pages of that book, when Atlas comes in, I loved, and I loved Atlas. And this book takes place after that first book and involves a lot of Atlas, and it's supposed to be a happy book compared to the first one, not so happy. And for those reasons, I really liked this book because I liked Atlas a lot. I'm not obsessed with it, but I don't know, I hadn't read a Colleen Hoover in a while, and these are characters in a world that I actually do enjoy that she's written. Some of her books I've absolutely hated, and some of them I have loved. So she's very hit or miss for me, but I liked this one a good bit, and I rated it a 3.5 stars. So I wouldn't really go out of my way to recommend this series to people, but if they wanted to read it, I wouldn't tell them not to. You know, I had a good time while I was reading it. I don't hate it. I really have no strong opinions about it. Some people hate the fact that she writes letters to Ellen DeGeneres, and honestly, I never really thought about it that much. I don't know, sometimes I watch book reviews and I'm like, maybe I'm not a critical enough thinker, but also when I'm reading books, I'm mostly reading them for entertainment and to just escape the world, so I'm not like really thinking about their choices as if they were a real human being. You know what I mean? I just suspend my belief, and I have a good time doing that. So that's my review of all the books that I read in October. Here they are, an interesting stack of books. Pretty good time. I'm currently reading a thriller, Not a Happy Family by Sherry Lapina. That's what I'm in right now, and I'm not reading very fast these days, but I'm still having a good time reading, which is all that I care about. So let me know what book was your favorite this month or your least favorite. Follow me on Instagram because that is probably where I'm most active, and then the main channel videos are still happening. So I'll see you guys somewhere else on the internet. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you somewhere else. I already said that.